Dan, I'll turn it over to you first. Is this the way to do it?
Well, we could argue that right from the beginning when they were going down this path. I mean, you know, in order to raise interest rates to be able to combat inflation at the level that we're at, it is virtually impossible not to throw the economy into a recession. So the approach he's trying to take is a soft landing, which to me is death by 1,000 cuts. So you keep raising the interest rate a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. We could see it's not having a substantial impact on inflation. There is some impact, but it's not enough to be able to get to 2% inflation rate based upon how much he's raising the rates so little each time. It's going to take years. We don't have that kind of time.
EJ, this quarter percentage point hike, it clearly acknowledges the recent bank failures, the Fed opening its wallet to banks through its discount window. But can this damage really be contained at this point?
No, not at all. And I think it's very important that we point out that these interest rate hikes are not breaking anything, contrary to what many pundits in the media have been saying. Things have been broken for quite a long time, and these interest rate hikes are merely exposing that. There is no way you get out of this mess without some kind of severe pain, whether that's going to be a recession or whether it's going to be more inflation. At some point, you have to pay the bill for the trillions upon trillions of dollars that we have spent, borrowed, and printed as a nation.
So you're saying it's not a good idea for the Biden administration, the way they just keep printing money and handing it out, right?
Oh, certainly not. And, you know, at the same time, the Federal Reserve is hiking interest rates. They are conducting other measures which are adding to inflation, not reducing it. So the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And at the end of the day, the net result is, although they're providing capital for the government and for large banks, they are starving the private sector of investment capital.
Dan, I'll turn it over to you now. Senator Elizabeth Warren trashing and blaming the Fed and Chair Jerome Powell for risking a recession simply because he used the only tool available to him to try to tamper down inflation. Here she is with Jake Tapper on CNN.
I didn't think that he should be reconfirmed as chair of the Fed. And I think he's doing a really terrible job. And he's doing a terrible job on both fronts. Remember, there are only two jobs for the Federal Reserve Chair. One is monetary policy, inflation. I think he's doing a very bad job there, and it's risking pushing our economy into a recession.
What's your reaction?
She may not be inaccurate with some of those statements. However, she fails to look in the mirror. And as EJ was alluding to there, when you're talking about all this government spending and printing money, you are creating inflation. She was part of all that. So to simply blame all this on Jerome Powell is not fair. Granted, he hasn't been handling it exactly perfectly, but still the fact remains that the reason that we're in this mess is because the government printed so much money, flooded the system with all this cash, creating demand when there was not enough supply. It's that simple.
And I think we can all agree, too, that the Biden administration declaring war on the fossil fuel industry on day one in office, when he shut down the Keystone Pipeline, that also didn't help inflation because, as we all know, going from energy independent to energy dependent has a trickle-down effect on so many Americans. And that's also why I think, right, we can all agree that why we're seeing prices so high. It's not just the price at the pump when we see energy prices go up, correct?
That's correct. Listen, everything that goes from point A to point B is using fuel. So when fuel costs go up, the price of products are going to go up. So absolutely, our energy policies have been another contributor to the inflation that we feel right now.
Well, I guess they thought we were going to have a bunch of windmills or something like that and people on bicycles and everything. And that's how we're going to get everything from point A to point B. Dan, Geltrude, and EJ Antoni, thank you both for coming on this morning.